Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So it's 4:26 a.m. Let me check my sound. Hope everyone is doing okay. I'm playing catch up from yesterday, and there's still like 2 videos, but I may not get to them till this evening or midday. I hope everyone is doing okay. So one of my subscribers, every so often my subscribers send me stuff, and I appreciate it. I always say, like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell. And I always oftentimes say I appreciate whether people send patron, super chat, or send me news articles, likes, all that stuff. Because the news articles often point my mind in a particular direction that I may not necessarily see for myself. Oftentimes, some people sometimes send me stuff saying, hey, can you take a look at this? I don't particularly like this. Or, take a look at this. I think this may be something you're interested in. This particular case was more interesting because the person said, I'm bothered by something that I'm seeing on TYT, and I would like you to take a look. In fact, I hope she doesn't mind if I read her letter, because it was a nice letter. But her name is Queen B. She says, Jamal, I'm a silent listener. Just wondered if you could please do a video about this ridiculous and downright insulting video by TYT blaming a black man for the election of Trump in such a patronizing tone to black people. They keep finding new lows when I think they can't go any lower. The video is called The Man Who Got Trump Elected, just in case they change the name later. I know it's very clickbaity and desperate. Well, Queen B, I looked at the video. And sometimes I've seen videos where people have sent to me and I didn't necessarily see it, or people would write to me about something and I'm like, not comfortable with that just because I don't fully get where you're coming from or just disagree. I remember someone sent me something about Kyle, and I was like, well, Kyle's not necessarily wrong in that situation. I understand where you're coming from, but come on, be fair. I watched this video and it bothered me. Now, I don't typically get insulted. I did this idea of getting insulted. There is something takes place out there somewhere, and if it's not aimed at me, then oftentimes I don't particularly care. I have to be honest. There was something in this that moved something. I don't necessarily know what it is. And I had to watch the video a few times because I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. But it was something that was bugging me and annoyed me as I watched this video. I think I know what it is. Oftentimes, and I'm going to show the video, oftentimes I don't necessarily bring in this thing of race into the conversations unless there's something explicit about race. I often think we need to be above a lot of this stuff. And I often think we need to be above it. And unless there's some explicit reason that it needs to be brought into the mix, bring it in. Now, there may be a reason. There may be some kind of heritage thing or some kind of history thing or something else. But otherwise, when I deal with particular issues, I try to pretend as if I'm living on the moon, looking at a particular thing, and giving my evaluation. That being said, the disposition of the email was, I am bothered by this. Take a look at it. Meaning the disposition of the email is, there's something in this that's bothering me. And do you feel, or do you at the very least see what I'm seeing in this? Meaning, do I see your perspective on this? And my answer is yes. And not just yes, it bugged the shit out of me. I watched this video 2 or 3 times. It goes beyond the patronizing tone. You could have done this video in multiple ways, but they chose to do this video in this very particular way. This is the opposite of Rebel headquarters. I would make the case to say this video is somewhat disgraceful. Ultimately, they make this argument, this sad, pathetic argument of blaming a black man for Hillary Clinton losing to Donald Trump. And as opposed to pointing to the factors of why the guy would support something like this, they go purely at him, calling the guy a chump, saying, I don't want nothing to do with the guy, all because their candidate lost. All because their candidate lost. Let's take a look at the video before I get into it. I think what annoys me about this is that if you delve into why this gentleman decided to go with Trump, you dig into this kind of history of African Americans and the Democratic Party. And you're talking about this kind of weird cultural mix that goes back for the last 40, 50 years. 90% of African Americans voted for Hillary Clinton. Some insane number voted for Hillary Clinton. And even that's not enough for Cenk Uygur. Even that's not enough for Cenk Uygur. There needed to be more blacks. We needed more darkies voting for Hillary Clinton. Even that wasn't enough to get his candidate elected. He went against the Democratic Party. And the entirety of this video is boiled down to this guy got had. This guy's a chump. This guy, look at how they treat you all. Look at how they treat you black people. Look at what takes place. Essentially, vote Democrat. MSNBC liked. Everything is organized around being a little bit rowdier than MSNBC. That is effectively what we have. Vote Democrat. Pretty much in every situation. And in this case, the one random black guy that didn't vote for Donald Trump. Didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. That's the guy that they decided to hit on their video. As opposed to actually delving into the more interesting topic of why would he do it? Why would he believe it? Let's take a look at the video before I get too far into it. Yeah, this video's annoyed me. And like I said, I've seen it a few times. Insulted? No, I don't necessarily feel insulted because I don't necessarily feel insulted like talking about when I watch this stuff. But annoyed? Yeah. And there's also this other thing of this breathtaking irony that they're completely unaware or non-self-aware as they go about saying this. This could rightfully be applied to them. You have this rowdier bunch who's supposed to be, the counter-active to the Democratic Party of sorts, who actively just pushes people into the Democratic Party, even though they're a little bit rowdier. Just a shade rowdier. But at the end of the day, that rowdier would never go beyond what it means to just be a Democrat. It's amazing. But I guess my point to this is this idea of the progressive movement of sorts. It's like they get beat, they get slapped, and yet they stay with the party. He's making this argument that these people are being taken advantage of while being the exact same person who said vote Hillary Clinton, the person who was not going to put any of his policy objectives through. Let's take a look at this video and we can go through it. I'm breaking it up into two pieces because there's no point in watching the 12-minute video.
Found that a reporter for Breitbart had recruited a Bernie Sanders supporter, a black man by the name of Bruce Carter, in order to rally support among the black community for Donald Trump. This is one of the most incredible stories, and it gives you a sense of what went wrong with Democrats in the past election, and more importantly, just how those on the right think and utilize the flaws of the Democrats to their favor.
That's called politics. That's politics. What you've just described is politics. I don't know what you thought politics was. Are you guys commenting on political actions or what? What did you think politics was? When Joe Manchin or when the Democrats are paying for the Republican, the wild card, I can't think of his name, Blank Ship or whatever his name is, because he's a goofball and they think that's the only person that Joe Manchin can beat, it's the same thing. What they're doing here is pulling somebody over to their side. That's called politics. I don't know what you thought politics was. This is an aspect of politics. Nothing is as strange or odd here. The only thing that's strange and odd here is that he's black. Let's be honest. Let's keep going.
So this all started when Dustin Stockton, who at the time was a Breitbart reporter, reached out to Bruce Carter. Bruce Carter was a huge Bernie Sanders supporter. He was doing canvassing for Bernie Sanders throughout the country. He was selling Bernie Sanders merchandise in order to help fund the trip throughout the country to do all of this supportive work. And then the whole thing with Hillary Clinton, the DNC emails, all of that stuff came out, and Carter became incredibly angry with the Democratic Party. And so Stockton took advantage of that and reached out to him and was like, hey, maybe you need to convince black voters throughout the country that voting for Democrats does not serve their best interests. Maybe they need to either stay home during the election or vote for Donald Trump because, he's thinking outside the box. Now, Carter said the following. He would go around and say, if you can't stomach Trump, just don't vote for the other people and don't vote at all. Okay. And then he recalls telling black voters that. It's the message he says the Trump campaign wanted him to deliver. That's what they wanted, that's what they got.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I saw Black Men for Bernie in their bus, and I think that they were super legit at that point. I think I'm disheartened to see how easy it was to manipulate them. One of the things that they showed Bruce Carter was this.
Why do you believe that he doesn't have agency? Why? Why do you believe he doesn't have agency? I mean, ultimately, he was pissed off at something the Democratic Party did. They cheated his guy. There was somebody who he wanted, that he supported, that he drove around the country for, and putting all that time and energy the fix was in. They cheated his guy. Somebody from the Trump campaign reached out to him, and he was receptive to it because they cheated his guy. You understand that, yes, you may want to say they took advantage, but he also was receptive to it because they cheated his guy. He still has agency. You're acting as if these are factors that are outside of him that are doing things. So no, he still has agency. He was pissed off. I understand he was pissed off. There are a lot of people who are pissed off. And there are a lot of people who made the decision that they didn't want to have anything to do with the Democratic Party because that party cheated their guy. They're not wrong for that. The Democratic Party shouldn't have cheated. They are not wrong. I'm missing the issue here. But let's keep going. Let's hear them out. Maybe they have something actually to say.
Insane movie called Clinton Cash, and they were trying to pass that out during the Republican convention. That's when they gave it to him. Breitbart tried to give that to me, and they're like, "Oh, you guys should run this on the Young Turks." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think so." In the garbage, right? No, as much as I couldn't stand Hillary Clinton, you think I'm going to get manipulated by you into running insane propaganda? Hell no, right? And to me, the most interesting parts are how they then incentivized Bruce Carter to do this, how some of the community reacted, and then what they did to him after the election. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. So first, let me give you some information about what Carter did and how successful it was in terms of some of these swing states and convincing the black community to either stay home or vote for Trump. So
I would wager to you that it wasn't successful at all. Like, it is hard to get across the animus from the standpoint of African Americans to the Republican Party. The only reason Democrats get African American votes is because of A, cultural tradition, but B, because they know what lurks in their party is not in their best interest. That's what it boils down to. I would wager that him running around town telling people that they need to vote for Trump probably did not get a well reception, and he didn't get a well reception. Those people essentially threw rocks at him, and even though they might not have been jazzed up about Hillary Clinton, some random guy driving around in a bus would not have any impact on whether or not they were going to show up at the polls. But let's let the Young Turks keep going with this.
Trump vastly outperformed the projection models in the 12 areas Bruce was targeting in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Florida. I never like telling people not to vote, but from a tactical and strategic position, we looked at it. If you could get them to vote for Trump, that was a +2. It was a +1, Dustin Stockton says, if they simply didn't vote at all.
So it's an admission of something that we know, that they try to suppress votes that are not likely to go to them.
That's true, but again, look, it's one thing if you're going to the polls and you're getting the polling locations to shut down, or you're dropping ballots, which is what took place in New York, interestingly enough, in the Democratic primaries. It's one thing if you're doing something like that. That's a direct manipulation of the voting apparatus. This is politics. I don't understand their issue here. It's politics. The Democratic Party burned a person. That person went to the other party believing his fortunes were better found in the other party. I am missing your point. I'm utterly missing your point. Let's keep going. It hasn't gotten bad yet, but let's keep going.
Which, yes, is definitely the black vote, a Latino vote, the young vote. And this goes all the way back to Paul Weyrich, who formed a lot of the conservative organizations. He admitted in his speech in 1980, he said, "I don't want everyone to vote. I only want our voters to vote." So this whole idea of like the ideal of democracy, they're not interested in that. They're interested in power.
Said with no irony. Zero irony. He's affiliated with a party that literally cheated one of the candidates. You have a representative democracy or representative government. That representative government have people voting for the people who they want to represent them. This is an interesting changeover of power, meaning you have one kingdom of sorts that transitions into another. It's a safe process, or for the most part, the processes have been relatively standardized. But the party that he associates with, the party that he voted for, that he pushed the people in his channel for, even when his people on his channel didn't want to do it, pushed them anyway to vote for, that Anna was browbeating the people on his channel to vote for, cheated, utterly cheated, and then lied about it, and then coming out with these weird claims of, yes, we rigged it, no, we didn't rig it. I mean, are you serious? You're making this argument that Republicans cheat. Yes, I agree with you that this is somewhat gamesmanship. What Rybrick says is more worrisome when you're getting into gerrymandering or you're getting into this thing of them manipulating like Operation Crosscheck. What you're seeing here is just politics. This is not bad play. This is not bad faith. This is politics. One team, the team that you represent, burn this particular person. After this person was burned, this person went to the other side, which was the other team. He had his reasons and justifications for doing that. You're not interested in those reasons, though. You went immediately to, this black guy didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Look at what they think of you black people for not voting for Hillary Clinton. The 90% clearly wasn't enough for Cenk Uygur. Clearly wasn't enough. That's amazing. Let's keep going. Flip it.
Raw power. So if they can get a guy like Bruce Carter to go and manipulate people, they're thrilled to do that to get him to stay home. So Hillary Clinton, for example, in Philadelphia, got 35,000 less votes than Barack Obama did. Now, it's not all Bruce Carter. There's a great number of different factors. And yes, those...
Cenk, how much of this is Bruce Carter? Explain it to me. How much of this vote do you believe that this man riding around in the bus moved? How much? You have Obama, black president. You have Hillary Clinton, who cheated Sanders, nearly lost to socialists, mind you, within the Democratic Party itself, was hated by most of the population, meaning this kind of like-dislike ratio. The woman was toxic. She was running in a time where it was anti-status quo, and she was as status quo as you can get running on Obama 2.0. How much of it is Bruce? That's what I want to know. If you're going to do this video, at the very least, you should be able to tell your audience how much of it is Bruce. You're saying this is the man that won it for Trump. How much of it is Bruce? This man didn't win it for Trump. I would be shocked as shit if even 1% changed. But they don't know that number. They just said the man that got Trump elected. They have no numbers at all.
Those districts were far more African American. And yes, they might have been more motivated to go vote for an African American president who was historic. And Hillary Clinton didn't do a great job of energizing people, and all of that is true. But even if he had a small effect, it still matters and it's important. And Trump didn't win the election by much. And more important than any of that is the intent to deceive you.
Right. The intent to deceive you is the worst part.
Again, that's politics. I don't understand at which point the Young Turks lost track of what is politics. They're acting as if the Republican Party is the only party that does this. You had an African American president that ran in screaming at the top of his lungs that he was going to be hope and change, leaving saying, "We've accomplished what we were here to do," which was effectively install the Bush tax cuts and protect Wall Street bankers. And yes, you can say he passed a right-wing healthcare plan, but at the end of the day, is that really hope and change? And is that really what people were looking for? Did he run that campaign to actually do hope and change, or did he run that campaign to deceive people using the mask of a black man to do so? I'm making this point that politicians lie. They do deceive. The Democratic Party doesn't care about the poor. The Republican Party doesn't care about the debt. The problem is both. The problem is not one or the other. You're attacking this guy because he didn't vote for Hillary Clinton and because he was pushing for people to get Trump. You don't even know the percentage that he's pushed this election, if he pushed it at all. It could be completely inconsequential or completely negligible. You don't know. But you're titling the video The Man That Won It for Trump. Let's keep going. Let's flip to the other video.
More than $2,700 for a candidate. One supporter, though, exceeded that cap, giving about $100,000 to Carter's efforts.
So this is how it works. So you need an African-American guy to fight against other African-Americans? Well, hey, I got a $100,000 Republican supporter to just give him the money, okay? And you need Latinos to fight against Latinos. We can give them a Fox News contract. We can give them a Republican donor money. You need women to fight against women. You'll get more money than you know what to do with. So this is this kind of scam that we told you about all along. On the Young Turks, we've been telling you that they've been doing this for a long time. This is just an amazing, clear example because now Carter, after what happened to him after the election, is coming forward and saying, yeah, here's the emails, here's the money they gave me, here's what happened. Now, so this woman, Seal Pillsbury, gives him the $100,000, and he's off to the races, paying himself and the expenses, etc. Then he's going to try to raise money from another Republican donor outside of Dallas, and this guy is Darren Blanton, and he's put in touch with him through Steve Bannon. Now, what does Blanton do? He says, oh yeah, I'm going to give you a lot of money, man. Way over $100,000. Come this way, keep going. And apparently, according to the emails, he does give him a little bit of money, a little taste, right? And he keeps stringing him along until the election's over. And they go, psych, not gonna give you the money. And then they turn around, and let me give you the quote from this great Bloomberg article. A little more than a week after the election, Carter's financial supporters backed away from plans to work with him on ambitious urban restoration efforts.
And I do want to mention that as well, because in addition to the money, there were a lot of promises being made about helping urban communities. We're going to ensure that, we push for a policy that forgives Black individuals who've been convicted of crimes, just all sorts of empty promises, which of course they didn't deliver on. And as soon as the election happened, they don't want to work with him anymore. And so when the right wing was asked to comment about that, and when Carter himself reached out and was like, what's going on? Why have you guys cut ties with me? Like, oh, we decided to do a criminal background check and found that you were convicted of a felony decades ago. And so we've decided to cut ties.
No, oh my God.
Why didn't you do that background check when you decided to work with him in the first place? Come on.
No. You see what they think of you? They're like, oh yeah, here's a little bit of money, do our bidding. We'll tell you we're gonna do urban restoration. You think Republicans are gonna do urban restoration? And then they went and said, oh no, for all the people wrongly convicted of those drug charges, we're gonna get them out of jail. How could you be so stupid as to believe that? Right? But hey, when there's hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, all of a sudden somebody get themselves to believe that Trump's here to help Black people. And then after the election, not only do they not pay you the extra that they promised you, then they cut their ties with you, and then they call you a criminal.
That's right.
This bothers me for some reason. I have to be honest, this video bugs the shit out of me. And I can't fully put my finger on what it is, but I think it's such an overemphasis on attacking the guy on two fronts. A, saying that the reason that he's doing this is A, for cash, meaning, this is not a position that he was taking because he wanted to do something that's better. And he was motivated to believe that Trump was going to do something for Blacks by being essentially paid by that motivation, for that motivation. Look, I have a bias against Black Republicans. I don't particularly like Black Republicans. African Americans in general have something against Black Republicans, but it's this feeling or this knowing that they inherently are going against their own in regards to the well-being of the whole. Let's say it that way. But the more interesting story here is not necessarily this guy's transition. This guy is not a Republican per se. This guy was a person who was dedicated to Sanders, was pissed off that Sanders was cheated, completely disillusioned by the Democratic Party that was, for the most part, like I said, Democratic Party doesn't care about the poor, Republican Party doesn't care about the debt. They just use those things as a mask that they use for political gamesmanship. But he was susceptible to essentially giving somebody else a chance because of the failures of the other party. It takes a lot for an African American who's voted Democrat for his entire life to switch over in that way, which gives you the level of failure that's taken place. The more interesting story here is not so much that look at what this guy did, but more so why the guy did it. You have a history, a cultural history of voting with that particular party. That goes back with this idea of the party itself reaching out to African Americans and what considered to be racists jumped into the other party. It is in our heads. It is one of those things that is almost like bred into you to some degree. Hillary Clinton losing of the black vote was an awesome thing. She should have lost it. Fact is, what he's saying was not necessarily wrong. Blacks are manipulated by the Democratic Party. Blacks are held captive because they're terrified of Republicans. As long as they're held captive in that way, then none of that power is exerted within the political process. At the end of the day, you have this black misleadership class that just runs these people into a river. The wealth under Obama, if you want to know why somebody would do something like that, and if you've noticed, he said urban housing. The wealth under Obama, look at this. It's an amazing stat how much wealth was lost under the Democratic president. The Obama presidency was a disaster for middle-class wealth in the United States. Between 2007 and 2016, the average wealth of the bottom 99% decreased by $4,500. That's amazing. The decline was particularly concentrated among housing wealth of African Americans. Outside of home equity, black wealth recovered in 2007 level by 2016, but the average black home equity was $16,700 less. Meanwhile, over the same period, the average wealth of the top 1% increased by $4.9 million. Much of this decline in wealth, we argue, was the direct result of the policies enacted by President Obama. His housing policies, particularly regarding foreclosures, were a disastrous failure that led to millions of families losing their homes, with black families suffering especially harsh losses. What's more, Obama had power, money, legislative tools, and legal leverage that could have very sharply ameliorated the foreclosure crisis, if not largely prevented it. He chose not to do it. This is Foreclosed by Ryan Cooper and Matt Brewing. The point I'm trying to make here is, the more interesting question is, what level of failure gets a person to the point of believing that the Republican Party was going to do anything on housing? Imagine the disillusionment. Imagine the level of failure that it takes for a person to literally be ejected out of a particular party and susceptible to something else that somebody is pushing forth. It is not insane that the guy believed Donald Trump. There was a 0.1% thing in my head that said he had the potential to do something different. No expectation of doing anything different. I assume he's going to be just like a regular Republican. And that's what he's been. His tone has been somewhat different, but he's governed as a Republican. But you're acting like he's stupid and he's crazy for believing it. You're also acting as if he's somehow besmirched by the money that he was getting, which may or may not be true, but I don't necessarily think you're in a situation to throw stones. You're literally sitting in a black teapot screaming that the black kettle over there is bugging you. I mean, there are two parts here. One, you have a progressive talk show that eventually was all rowdy and everything else, but at the end of the day went against their audience to tell them to vote for Hillary Clinton. I have made the point that lefties are essentially the abused spouse, or the political equivalent of an abused spouse, which TYT, I present. Rowdy, pissed off, angry, putting up people to run, but at the end of the day, vote Democrat. You're stuck in the paradigm. You're continuously stuck in the paradigm. this browbeating that's being given to some degree is because this guy didn't fall in line and vote for Hillary Clinton, which is what it boils down to. Your candidate lost. You went against what your audience wanted, and your candidate lost. That's profoundly embarrassing. There's also this second aspect, and there's a few. This idea of somebody who gets $20 million, and we're supposed to believe that the $20 million in no way besmirches his superhuman standards of moral integrity. But this other guy, who was bothered because they cheated him, never had agency in this process and was completely manipulated. And this is how they treat you, and this is how they think of you. How can you be so stupid? What are you, a chump? He even goes so far as to say, I want nothing to do with him. I want nothing to do with him. What is it that he did to you, Jank? Your candidate lost. It's called an election. Nothing that took place was foul play. I mean, they may have some money issues in the sense of the money that was given, but from the standpoint, this is politics. This is how politics is played. You're acting as if something that's taking place here is beyond the pale. The only thing that's beyond the pale is that we're using an African American to essentially do this. But understand what it was based on. He had agency in this. He was pissed off at what took place from the standpoint of Sanders. And he decided, I am not going to vote for that woman. I don't want that woman to win. That is not insane in the least. You may say that he's getting money and he was juiced to do so. What about you? Are you juiced to do so? Does the same rule apply to you? Meaning, you get all of that money and TYT turns from Rebel headquarters to MSNBC Light. Does money have a consequence? Is it fair that if you're going to ask it of him, I can ask it of you also? I mean, come on. There's also this other weird thing where the race issue keeps coming into play, where he's black and he's being used, etc., etc. There's an Armenian woman sitting on that set under a banner called the Young Turks. The Young Turks being the same organization in Turkey, or in the Ottoman Empire at the time, that created a massacre, a genocide, on that same race or that same culture that person belongs to. She's sitting there for cash. Now, if you want to say that something is wrong with this black man supporting Trump, which I don't advertise, I think it's a horrible idea, but you're calling the guy a chump. You're calling the guy stupid. You're acting like the guy doesn't have agency. All because your candidate lost. She lost. Get over it. I mean, shit. You're getting what you want from the standpoint of getting a bunch of people and ferreting them back into the Democratic Party. You're bringing this guy up as this kind of symbol of what? Politics? Yes, that's politics, Jank. That's politics. You act like you don't know what politics is. And by the way, Democrats also use African Americans in a similar way that the Republicans use this guy. Same thing. You may even make the argument that it's even worse, because at this point it's somewhat of a captured field. The only difference is the Republicans are so batshit crazy, blacks are terrified, so they don't necessarily jump from the Democratic Party. So yeah. But this video annoyed the shit out of me. It annoyed the shit out of me. Red Economics, I have to give videos. Oh, thank you, Red Economics. The Daily Dope Show. Hi, Red Economics, to see you at night hour. Yeah, but they use black people. Democrats use people all the time. That's what identity politics is for. Yes, but they are blissfully unaware of that. Blissfully unaware of that. They missed that part. They completely missed that part. 90%. 90%. How much more do you need? Like, fuck. How many more people, how many more lemmings do you need to get to squeeze into the Democrat to get some random hack into office? How about representing something? Do you understand that the only reason that this guy was susceptible in any way to listening or talking to Donald Trump was because of how bad and how failed the Democratic Party was? That's the only reason. The story here, if you want to really have a story, that rebel headquarters at this point is just essentially browbeating people for not voting for Hillary Clinton. Look at this black guy who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. It's amazing. It's utterly amazing. TYT, ladies and gentlemen, MSNBC Light. We believe that everybody else is besmirched by cash, But when we get cash, we have superhuman integrity that prevents us from changing our show into be MSNBC light and just bashing Trump 24/7. That's other people. That's not us. Yeah, that's great. That's great. All of them. They need all of them. I don't know what that means. Dem exit, yes, vote them out. Here's the thing, though. The paradigm that TYT uses would never allow that to take place. Like, these guys are talking about, we're boarding the ship. We're going to board the ship and we're going to change the Democratic Party. Their thumb has been on the scale all throughout the United States. Until you deal with that paradigm of you have nowhere else to go, you're stuck with the paradigm of you have nowhere else to go. This idea that you're going to continuously do the same thing you've done over and over and over again, and you're going to get some kind of different result. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian, and his disgraceful, insulting disposition of insulting a guy and going after a guy because he didn't vote for their candidate. And he engaged in politics in a way that their identity politics mindset doesn't approve of. Yeah, the show sucks. Controlled opposition indeed. Controlled opposition indeed. You know, there was a paper that came out that said the Democratic Party was looking for an organization that would be kind of offside of it, but a little rowdier. And that would ultimately just provide a funnel back into the party itself. If that is not TYT, I don't know what it is. MSNBC has its own thing for the liberals per se. But if TYT is not essentially the lighter brother of MSNBC, I don't know what is. Don't take my word for it. Look at their main channel. They have stupid shit like this all the time. Shink has no problem calling black men with different opinions Uncle Tom, but Anna coming up with an excuse for being on a show called The Young Turks. Yeah, it's amazing. That by itself blew me away. In World War I, the Young Turks were an organization or a political party, a political thing that came into effect in the Ottoman Empire. And coming to effect in the Ottoman Empire, they were new, they were rejuvenated and all this other stuff, but there were suspicions that the Armenians had something to do with some of the military losses. Now, whether this is true or not is kind of besides the point. The suspicions started. Those suspicions eventually grew to the point where it was enough where they started a march, a forced march. They murdered and slaughtered. It's a genocide. Now, Turkey doesn't like to own up to it. Cenk Uygur didn't like to own up to it. But the rest of the world, for the most part, understands that they committed a genocide. This was before even Hitler committed his genocide. You're calling this guy an Uncle Tom for all intents and purposes. And Ana Kasparian is sitting there under a Young Turks banner. It's like a black man sitting under a Confederates or a Klan. You know, it's like the Young Klansmen, the Young Nazis, the Young Fascists, the Young Turks. Those things would be synonymous with the group that's being persecuted. Sitting under each one would essentially be a similar thing. This item annoyed me. I understand that this is identity politics at its worst. How about your candidate just winning the goddamn election? How about that? How about that? Yeah, I stopped watching TYT after they threw their weight for the cheater in 2016. John Smith, they didn't just throw their weight. Cenk Uygur put his mug on camera, and in spite his audience being completely against it, said, you need to vote Hillary Clinton. And then took like 16 minutes to go into this thing of his permutations of how he explains this. I mean, this is fucking amazing. I'm not supporting Hillary Clinton. I'm just voting for Hillary Clinton. And there's a distinction between me supporting Hillary Clinton versus me voting Hillary Clinton. Cenk Uygur, is your vote gonna go towards Hillary Clinton? Yes. But that's not support. No. Okay. I don't know. I don't see anything stopping them from throwing some false progressives like Harris in for 2020, then getting surprised when Trump gets reelected. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Kamala Harris is the one who's probably they're trying to game up as being this kind of progressive candidate. They're trying to pivot her against Donald Trump. She's come out with Medicare for All, so that's her, you know, hey, I'm a lefty, I'm Medicare for All, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, you know, trying to throw this fake progressive. This is also the person who's perfectly okay with cops stealing money from people, who office also try to had firefighters or prisoners to fight fires for like 20 cents an hour. I mean, yeah, Kamala Harris, progressive, my ass. Will Bernie run in 2020? Would he run as an independent? No, he wouldn't. Is that even feasible in primary rules and state? He wouldn't run it as an independent. He's running as an independent in the state of Vermont. But in that, it's weird. He's running in the primary process and then stepping out of the primary process in order to run as an independent, declining the Democrats' nomination. Now, in the presidential election, if he runs, he's going to run as a Democrat. I think he's already said that. Umbrelitos. I don't think it's fair for fault Anna for working on TYT. Their Hillary fan service is a major fault, however. They are sitting there calling this man an Uncle Tom because this man decided to work with the Trump campaign. Now, if you're telling me that it is not a height of hypocrisy screaming at the top of hypocrisy's lungs, to insult this guy for working with Trump, while at the same token having somebody who was sitting there under genocide. What am I missing here? This correlation seems to be the same. She is getting money for working for this particular agency, is not minding the name of this. This guy was getting money for working for Trump and didn't necessarily mind the fact that it was Donald Trump. I'm making the point that what's more important in the story was the reason why they decided to do this. They decided to use the story from the vantage point of, look at this black guy being tricked into voting for Trump, and look at how stupid and how much of a Trump he was. That's essentially the story. I mean, come on. Chink pushed harder for Hillary than any other news outlet. Yeah, that's funny, but he says he didn't support her. TA72, TYT always support the neocon Democrats, Hillary, Obama, Kerry. Well, I suspect they just support the Democrat, if that makes sense. It's just whoever the random Democrat is. If Sanders was there, they would have supported Sanders. They would have supported him vociferously. If Hillary was there, of course, they were going to give Hillary her vote. And immediately when Hillary comes in, they start attacking Donald Trump relentlessly. And they've just continued to do it just like every other news outlet. So, yeah. To be fair, are they supporting corporate policies or just lesser of two evils? I suspect the lesser of two evils. 555, you are prolific. You are prolific. All right, guys. I'm not going to keep this one much longer. This is gone 42 minutes. And it's gone very, very, way too long. And I've been up way too late. Yeah, I'll end it here. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, everyone.